Imagine for a moment waking up each day not just with faith, but with the certainty that you think with Christ, feel with Christ, and create with Christ. Imagine walking through life knowing you are never alone, that a living, loving, and powerful presence is guiding your every step. This is not just a text, it is a map, a key, a sacred secret forgotten by many, but available to anyone brave enough to seek the truth. Based on the timeless teachings of Emmet Fox, one of the greatest spiritual teachers of the 20th century, this text will reveal how to connect with the divine power that lives within you. Here you will discover that your mind is not merely your own, it is an instrument of God, that your emotions are not obstacles but bridges to the sacred, and that your ability to create is no accident, but a direct reflection of the creative power of Christ in action. Prepare yourself, because this journey is not external. It is a voyage into the deepest parts of your being. Through these words, you will learn to break the chains of fear, dismantle the illusions of lack and separation, and ignite within you the light that never fades, the Christ mind. It does not matter who you are or what you have lived through. It does not matter how many times you have fallen. What matters is that today you have been called. And this message reaches you not by chance, but because your soul has asked for it. Take a deep breath. Open yourself to the divine, because from this moment forward, you begin to walk hand in hand with Christ. Go with God, for as he thinks in his heart, so is he. Proverbs 23:7. Dear reader, nothing in your life is a coincidence. Nothing happens by the whim of the stars, politics, or luck. Everything you call outside is, in truth, a photograph of what you hold inside. This truth, the mental law, is as precise as the law of gravity. I didn't invent it, and it doesn't depend on your belief in it. It simply operates. You and I use it every minute, whether we realize it or not. When upon waking you cling to the memory of a grievance, your entire day takes on that tone. When you cultivate an ideal of peace and love, events align to confirm it. Thought is the cause, experience is the effect. Change the inner image, and the reflection must shift. It's that simple, that infallible. The purpose of this book is to show you, in plain language and through real-life examples, how to consciously apply the mental law. I'm not trying to spread a new religion or impress you with strange doctrines. I want you to understand the mechanism and use it just as you use electricity, without fear or superstition, but with respect for its principles. You'll notice that each chapter follows a three-part structure. First, I present the biblical principle upon which the teaching is based. The Bible is my textbook. Next, I offer the practical method that translates it into daily life. Finally, I share a documented case, a healing, a financial improvement, a reconciliation that proves the law in action. You'll read about ordinary men and women who achieved extraordinary results by changing their thoughts. If they could do it, so can you. I invite you not to read in haste. Pause, reflect, try the affirmations. Spiritual truth isn't accumulated like data, it's absorbed like nourishment. Let these pages become your mental laboratory. In just a few weeks, you will verify through your own experience that being renewed in the spirit of your mind is not an impossible command, but the key to living in freedom, health, and abundance. That key is already in your hands. Let's begin to use it. Go with God. The golden key to thinking, feeling, and creating with power, based on the teachings of Emmet Fox. We've noticed that over 80% of those who visit our channel are not subscribed. You can support this project by clicking the subscribe button and giving the video a like. Thank you for inspiring us to keep creating more and better content for you. Are you ready to transform your life? Chapter 1, The Mental Law and How It Operates. Ask and it will be given to you. Seek and you will find. Knock and it will be opened to you. Matthew 7:7. Each of us lives immersed in an invisible ocean of thought. It is a boundless sea that responds with perfect precision to the impulse we give it. When Jesus said, "Ask and it will be given to you," he was not dispensing random favors. He was describing a law as real as the law of gravity. To ask, in the spiritual sense, is to think with determination. To receive is to experience the inevitable reflection of that thought. The infallible cycle. One thought. All creation begins with an idea. The mind sends out the seed. 2. Feeling. The heart brings warmth. The seed is infused with emotion and comes to life. 3. Manifestation. Sustained emotion pushes outward and becomes form, event, circumstance. Sow an idea but fail to water it with feeling. It won't sprout. Nurture a feeling without a clear idea. You'll grow weeds, but unite them in harmony, and the result is guaranteed. That is why the first duty of the spiritual student is to guard the gate of the mind. What thought am I letting in? That question asked regularly can recalibrate your entire destiny. The classic fall. A man visualizes prosperity during his morning prayer, then spends the rest of the day thinking about unpaid bills. Final balance? Fear prevails. The law responds to fear. It doesn't fail due to lack of faith, but because of mixed signals, two conflicting requests. The law doesn't punish, it fulfills. Like electricity, it either lights the lamp or causes a short circuit depending on how it's used. Silent treatment in action. Allow me to illustrate the principle with a recent case from my correspondence. A mother from Boston wrote, distressed over her 14-year-old son's behavior. Rebellious at school, foul language at home, undesirable friendships. I've lectured him, punished him, and he only gets worse, she said. I recommended a 7-day silent treatment. Choose 3 calm moments each day. Close your eyes and vividly picture the boy, polite, focused, joyful. Silently declare the life of God in John expresses itself as order, obedience, and joy. Refuse to talk about his faults with teachers or neighbors. Each time the old image arose, she was to immediately replace it with the harmonious one. By the 3rd day, the teacher sent a note. John has participated with interest in class. By the 7th day, the boy asked to go to the library. The transformation continued. The mother did not manipulate her son. She changed the mental cause and allowed the law to do the rest. The method worked because she held a clear idea, infused it with faith-filled emotion, and refused to contradict it with fearful words. Exercise for today. Choose one matter that troubles you, finances, health, a relationship. Don't try to fix 10 problems at once. Pick one. For 1 minute, form the simplest idea that expresses the outcome you desire. A clear picture without embellishment or doubt. Then for another minute, feel yourself living that outcome. Breathe in the emotion of relief, of fulfilled gratitude. Finally, declare naturally, this or something better is now manifesting under grace and in perfect ways. Then release it. When the old fear arises, repeat the operation, always in silence. With steady practice, you'll notice the external world begin to shift, just as the compass needle aligns effortlessly with the north. Take care of the starting point. Remember, we're not fighting circumstances, we're adjusting ideas. A muddy spring cannot produce clean water. Clean the source, your thinking, and the whole stream is purified. Watch the first spark. That's where the key lies. The mental law does not ask for your age, social class, or creed. It works for everyone with the same precision. It's up to us to use it wisely. As you close this chapter, make your request with a scientific mindset, knowing the outcome is guaranteed by divine precision. Focus on the idea and the feeling. The manifestation will take care of itself. That is what the Master taught. That is what experience confirms. And that is what you too will prove, if you choose to think and feel in the right direction. Chapter 2. The Correct Mental Image. All the land that you see I will give to you and your offspring forever. Genesis 13:15. The universe is bound to deliver what you are able to see with enough clarity and persistence. The promise God made to Abraham, all the land that you see, was not only about physical territory. It described the law governing the mind. What you perceive with inner vision will become your outer experience. The obstacle is not usually lack of effort, but lack of a clear image. Many people, even after learning the principles of Christian metaphysics, keep a double exposure on the screen of the mind, a positive picture overlapped with a negative of fear. Under such confusion, the mental law produces unstable shadows. Our task is to project a single, clean, sustained image full of life, because image governs. Every thought has a latent form. When you hold it focused, that form condenses and moves from the invisible to the visible. It does so by natural attraction, just like a photograph develops when exposed to light and the right chemicals. In our case, the chemicals are feeling and word, but the starting point is always the image. Where the image is unstable, the result is blurry. Where it is contradictory, the result dissolves. That's why Jesus said, if your eye is single, your whole body will be full of light. The eye is the imagination. Single means undivided, signs of double exposure. You imagine health and then immediately ask, but what if the pain comes back? You visualize abundance, but before sleeping you go over unpaid bills. You bless a rebellious child and then say to a neighbor, "This kid is hopeless." These oscillations repeat the old habit of looking both left and right at once. You lose the straight path. To guard the image means rejecting any picture that doesn't align with the chosen ideal, not with fear, but with calm firmness. No, thank you. My order is already placed and I won't change it. The invisible blackboard technique. To achieve the clarity the law demands, I often recommend the invisible blackboard. Picture yourself standing before a clean board with not a single mark. With the chalk of the mind, draw the finished result, nothing more, nothing less. Don't get lost in minor details. Just the essentials that trigger a sense of fulfillment. Next, take a step back and contemplate your drawing. As you look at it, let the natural feeling that would accompany that fulfilled scene rise. Peace, gratitude, energy, whatever matches. Stay there for half a minute. Finally, mentally erase the board. This gesture symbolizes that you release the order to the divine power for execution, free of intellectual interference. Do this 3 times a day upon waking before your main meal and before sleep. Between sessions, if the old image reappears, say inwardly, "It has been erased. The correct version is already recording." Return to normal breathing and move on. In a few days, you'll notice that the desired image starts showing up effortlessly. That's the sign the seed has taken root. A practical case, Don Federico's shop. Federico G., a stationery shop owner in Monterey, wrote to me months ago. His sales had dropped so much he was considering closing. I asked him to describe the image he held of his business. He admitted he saw himself behind the counter alone, counting coins to pay suppliers. I suggested the invisible blackboard. For 20 minutes each night before turning off the light, he drew the opposite scene in his mental board. Shelves emptying quickly, customers queuing up, the cash register clicking joyfully, and himself signing a generous bank deposit. He would finish, erase the board, and go to sleep without arguing with the mind over how. On the 3rd day, a teacher asked him to supply materials for 40 students. On the 6th, a corporate rep, who had never visited before, entered and bought notebooks for the staff. By week's end, sales had doubled, and by month's end, Federico hired an assistant. "I didn't even change the window display, Mr. Emmet, he wrote. "I only changed the film running in my head." That is the power of a single clear image, repeated with faith and no fear mixed in. Details that ensure effectiveness. Simplicity, one image. If you want multiple goals, work on one until it's underway. Movement, add life. See the door opening, hear the register ring. Smell fresh ink on the bills if it helps. The subconscious responds better to lively scenes than static photos. Congruent emotion. Don't force excitement. If your goal is peace, feel peace. If it's dynamic success, feel vitality. Fulfilled end. Don't imagine the process, see the final result already achieved. Divine power handles the how. Calm repetition. Faith is deposited by drops. 10 short sessions are worth more than 1 occasional marathon. How to neutralize inner saboteurs. There will be moments when old fear breaks in. What if it doesn't work? Instead of fighting it, use that moment as a reminder to refine your image. Return to the board, redraw it, enhance a missing detail, and release it. Every interruption can become a reaffirmation of your order, just like a clerk stamping checked on a bill. The inner saboteur loses power when it sees its objections strengthen your practice rather than ruin it. A note on moral imagination. Some fear that visualization is a selfish attempt to control life. Remember, no one can receive good that belongs to another, and your prosperity does not impoverish your neighbor. Mental law multiplies total wealth by directing channels free from obstruction. If your image includes harmony for all involved, it is morally sound and spiritually safe. Christ multiplied bread. He didn't take it from anyone. Guided exercise. Tonight, choose a specific goal and condense the image into a phrase of 10 words or fewer. For example, my business shines with happy clients and steady profits. Close your eyes. Draw the essential scene, perhaps 3 smiling clients, you handing over bags, the register showing high numbers. Add a sound, the doorbell. Add a smell, fresh paper. If it helps, hold for 30 seconds. Feel the fulfilled satisfaction, like someone admiring a blooming garden saying, "This is so good." Erase the board slowly and leave it blank. Breathe deeply. Say thank you and sleep. Repeat tomorrow morning and before your main meal. Continue for 7 days without evaluating results. Your only task is to guard the correct film. Abraham attained all he could see. Federico doubled his sales because he saw abundance around him before holding it in his hands. You too will possess what you allow yourself to see, without double exposures in the secret chamber of imagination. Make the invisible blackboard your daily ally. Give the law a clean negative, and it will print the flawless positive. That's how the promise unfolds. All the land that you see, I will give to you. Chapter 3. Feeling, the engine of thought. Therefore I tell you, whatever you ask in prayer, believe that you have received it, and it will be yours. Mark 11:24. Thought is the seed, but emotion is the warmth that makes it germinate. A grain can lie dormant for years in a jar without sprouting. It only needs heat and moisture to awaken. The same happens with our ideas. You can repeat affirmations all day, but if you say them coldly, they remain inert. When Jesus instructed, "Believe that you have received it," he described the fiery phase of prayer, to feel as true that which is not yet seen. That emotional conviction is the plaster that sets the mental image until it becomes solid. Many students stumble because they divide the mind and the heart. They imagine health, but continue to feel worry. They declare prosperity, yet still fear their bills. They ask for harmony while harboring resentment. The mental law reads the emotional temperature, not the verbiage. If a positive thought wears the icy coat of doubt, the result will be lukewarm or null. The task, then, is to raise the inner thermometer until the idea boils with certainty. A simple method to achieve this is an exercise I call breathing certainty. It takes no more than 30 seconds and can be practiced anywhere. Stop. Gently close your eyes and exhale all the air as if releasing a burden. Then slowly inhale, imagining you are breathing in the life of God. Feel your mind fill with light. Hold your breath for a moment and perceive deep within that your desire is already fulfilled. Visualize yourself having achieved your goal, your body free of pain, your bank account balanced, your relationship restored. As you hold the image, let a wave of gratitude soak into every cell. Gently exhale, as if signing the delivery. Repeat twice more to complete 3 conscious breaths. Then open your eyes and continue your work, knowing the seed now rests in warm, fertile soil. Do this 3 times a day, upon rising at midday and before sleep. Don't turn the exercise into a rigid discipline. Approach it lightly, as one waters a plant. What matters is not the duration, but the emotional intensity. 30 seconds of vibrant gratitude outweigh 10 minutes of empty recitation. The right emotion is not nervous excitement, but serenity filled with certainty. Allow me to illustrate with a real case that confirms the principle. Anita L., a secretary at a law firm in Mexico City, suffered chronic migraines for 4 years. She had tried diets, medications, and rest without lasting success. After attending a lecture on Christian metaphysics, she wrote to me seeking guidance. I explained that while she imagined health, her fear of pain cancelled her efforts. I proposed a 7-day treatment based on breathing certainty. Each morning, before checking her email, Anita did the 3 breaths. During the breath hold, she visualized her head as light as a feather and affirmed, "Divine life flows freely through every nerve and vessel in my body. My mind rests in peace, and my brain functions perfectly." Importantly, she didn't say this out of desperation to escape pain, but with gratitude for a present good. She repeated the exercise at lunch and bedtime, always soaking the phrase in heartfelt relief. On the 4th day, she noticed the usual warning hum of a migraine never appeared. Surprised, she kept practicing without mentioning it to her colleagues. She passed the weekend pain-free for the first time in months. When she wrote me at the end of the week, she said, "I feel like my head belongs to someone else, like I have a new head." There was no external miracle. There was an internal rise in temperature. The mental image of health had been planted for years. Everyone desires to be well, but at last, her thought received the steady warmth of gratitude, and it sprouted. Anita's secret was sustaining the right emotion outside the formal moment of prayer. If the old fear crept in during work, she would sigh deeply, recall the image of lightness, and let gratitude wrap her like a cloak. This kept the cold from returning, and you can do the same with any goal. First, define the images you learned in the previous chapter. Then ask yourself, what would I feel if this were already real? perhaps calm, joy, freedom, or security. Choose a word that sums up that feeling and make it your fuel. Each time you inhale during the exercise, let the word fill your chest. As you exhale, release all that is foreign: doubt, haste, overthinking. 30 seconds are enough to reheat the idea. If it feels fake at first, don't worry. Feeling like damp wood takes time to catch fire. Persevere without tension, and you'll reach a point where gratitude becomes spontaneous, almost physical, like a tingling of confirmation. That moment is gold. It's a sign that your subconscious has accepted the command. From then on, the process belongs to the silent power of the divine. Don't dig up the seed to check if it's sprouting. Breathe certainty and continue. The Apostle James warns that the double-minded man is unstable in all his ways. Double-mindedness is born from the gap between thought and emotion. Thinking health with a fearful heart creates instability. Thinking abundance with an anxious heart yields the same result. Align your inner climate, and your outer paths will align as well. Remember, it's not the quantity of thought, but the quality of emotion that convinces the subconscious. A single lit match ignites the stove. There's no need for a bonfire. But the match must burn. It's not enough to draw one. Ignite thought with genuine feeling, and the law will unfailingly fulfill its part. Make breathing certainty your go-to practice. 30 seconds 3 times a day amounts to just over a minute and a half. No external commitment is more valuable than that minute and a half that determines the texture of your future. The air is always with you, and so is the divine presence. Use both as unfailing allies. As you close this chapter, bring your attention to your next breath. Inhale as one receiving an already opened gift. Exhale as one giving thanks for the gift. Repeat twice more. This is the key that fuses the cold metal of thought with the fire of emotion until it forges your desired reality. With steady practice, you will prove the Master's promise. What you ask for with burning faith, that and nothing else will come into your life. Chapter 4, the spoken word. Death and life are in the power of the tongue, and those who love it will eat its fruit. Proverbs 18:21. The mind conceives, feeling fuels, and the word launches. Nothing comes into manifestation until it is spoken, whether aloud or silently, as the final decree. The ancient Hebrews understood this so deeply that they used the same root for to say and to create. God spoke, and light was. Man, on a smaller scale, speaks and replicates the same miracle. Every time you affirm something about yourself, your health, your business, or even the weather, you are fusing mental spark and emotional fuel, projecting a command to the invisible workshop that shapes matter. That is why the wise declare plainly, life and death are in the tongue. With the movement of your lips, or more often with the silent murmuring that only the law records, you can build or tear down, bless or limit. Someone might say, but I hardly ever speak negatively. Just 5 minutes of self-awareness can reveal the underground stream. I never have enough time. This city makes me sick. With my luck, it'll rain for sure. That chatter may seem insignificant, yet it aligns the creative force of the universe against you. It's not divine punishment, it's pure logic. The word seals the image and the emotion. If you visualize abundance but then say twice, money doesn't stretch, you have stamped scarcity. If you breathe in the certainty of health but then tell your neighbor, my nerves are shot, you renew an old pact with disorder. The mouth confirms or cancels faith. A good spiritual thermometer is the casual conversation you hold when not practicing. There the law reveals itself in action. I remember Arturo, a traveling appliance salesman who attended my talks in Toluca. He complained about inconsistent commissions. We analyzed his route, prices, and hours. Nothing seemed off, until we noticed Arturo's favorite phrase, "With this bad weather, no one opens the door." He repeated it with every drizzle, every gust of wind. That phrase, thrown out 10-20 times a day, saturated his world of sales with the image of closed doors. I suggested a simple change. Replace it with, God opens the way and clients receive me with interest. And when the old complaint tried to surface, say nothing. 2 weeks later, Arturo reported his commissions had tripled. The clouds were still there, but he no longer painted his day grey with his tongue. The key is not to talk more, but to talk aligned. Effective speech joins 3 elements: spiritual truth, brevity, and conviction. Too many syllables indicate mental strain and inner doubt. A short phrase, charged with truth and spoken calmly, becomes a rail that guides the train of subconscious energy. Here are some bridge phrases to use and teach. Don't recite them like spells. Let each one settle into the matching emotion and speak it with quiet authority. God opens the way, harmony governs. Divine substance flows freely, and the life of God renews every cell, and the perfect opportunity finds me now. Choose the one that best fits your situation, and repeat it every time you feel the urge to describe the negative. If someone asks, "How are sales with all this rain?" your mouth declares, "God opens the way." If they ask about your health, the life of God renews me. You're not doing it out of religious politeness, but out of mental hygiene. You're choosing to plant roses instead of thorns, knowing every word is a seed. You might protest, "I don't want to lie, I haven't seen results yet." Visible results are the final stage. First you speak, then the universe arranges the means. When Jesus commanded the fig tree, "May you never bear fruit again," the disciples saw no immediate change. The next day, the tree was withered from the root. Effectiveness doesn't depend on physical sight, but on alignment between word, image, and feeling. It's also wise to monitor internal speech. You may affirm prosperity aloud, yet still mutter within, "Prices keep going up." Those who practice consciousness should aim for internal and external speech to match. To train yourself, spot unproductive expressions as soon as they appear. This is a statement of lack, and immediately correct with a bridge phrase, "Divine substance flows freely." Don't condemn the slip, replace it. The mind learns through repetition. After a few days, the old complaint will feel strange. Your tongue will spontaneously choose the path of life. Back to Arturo, our traveling salesman. One rainy afternoon, after hearing 3 rejections, he felt the old urge to mutter, "With this bad weather." He caught himself mid-phrase, took a deep breath and whispered, "God opens the way." He rang the next doorbell and found a purchasing agent seeking portable fridges for a school campaign. The order equaled 8 weeks of average sales. That night he wrote to me, "For the first time I understood the weather was my word, not the cloud." The law had simply followed the direction his tongue gave it. This practice may seem trivial, but sustaining it transfigures life. A young woman named Celia, an accounting clerk, spent her voice on phrases like, "I'm exhausted, I can't take it anymore." She wanted a new position. I asked her to replace every exclamation with, "Divine intelligence acts through me." 15 days later, her boss assigned her an analysis task that uncovered a minor fraud. The promotion came with recognition. Celia didn't gain sudden wisdom, she simply stopped denying it with her words. Don't fall into the trap of expressing what I feel. Express what the Spirit knows. If your body hurts, don't lie. Affirm that divine life is stronger than the symptom. If your wallet is thin, don't proclaim lack. Declare abundance in motion. The spoken word doesn't deny visible facts. It reminds them of their subordination to truth. A sailor doesn't deny the storm. He affirms his course with the compass and keeps the helm steady. Try it right now. Think of an area where your language tends to be gloomy. Choose a suitable bridge phrase. Write it on a card and carry it with you. Every time the old phrase rises in your mind, touch the card, smile, and say the new one. At night, review your day. Did your tongue bring more life or more death? Celebrate your successes. Correct your slips without guilt. Repeat tomorrow. Verbal habits form quickly. Your tongue wants to move. Give it a constructive path. In 30 days, the harvest will be tangible. A body with more energy, a kinder bank balance, smoother relationships. Don't think the world has changed. Your word created a microclimate where earlier seeds could now blossom. The mental law, after all, only understands clear orders. Every time you open your mouth, remember the proverb. You are sowing life or death with the same tool. Use it as a builder, not a destroyer. Speak light and you will walk in light. Speak harmony and the universe will align to the exact note your voice affirms. Your expression is the bell that summons events. Tune it to the divine tone and you will hear its echo all around you. Chapter 5, The Golden Key. Letting go of the problem. Be still and know that I am God. Psalm 46:10. There are moments when the mind, no matter how many affirmations it repeats, remains trapped in a knot of worry. It's as if the wheel is spinning on the same patch of mud. The faster it tries to go, the deeper it sinks. For such cases, years ago I shared a very brief method that readers have since named the Golden Key. It does not add force to the thought. It redirects it. Instead of fighting the problem, it diverts all attention away from it and focuses it on the divine presence. It is based on a simple axiom. 2 incompatible ideas cannot occupy the mind at the same time. If you fill yourself with God, there is no room for fear, resentment, or doubt. When the mental cause disappears, the visible form rearranges itself naturally. The psalmist expressed this with sublime words, "Be still, and know that I am God." Stillness is not passivity. It is the voluntary suspension of internal argument to allow wisdom to enter. To know that He is God is to remember that absolute good governs every situation, even when the senses seem to contradict it. The golden key consists, therefore, of turning the mental lock from the problem toward the truth, turning it so completely that attention becomes impenetrable to the old images. Many assume the process requires a long meditation. It does not. If you spend 90 seconds with full concentration, you will have turned the key completely. Here is the guideline. Read it 2 or 3 times, then practice until you can apply it without paper or clock. Take a breath and release your shoulders. Recognize that tension is a sign that the mind is gripping the problem. Silently declare, "I let this go right now." Do not try to solve, analyze, or argue. Simply let go as if dropping a heavy object. Turn your attention to the name of God you prefer. God, Father, Life, Love, I Am. Repeat that word mentally in rhythm with your natural breath. While repeating, imagine a serene light expanding from the center of your chest. Do not command it, just observe. If the problem tries to sneak in, a number, a face, a feeling, acknowledge you noticed it, then return to the divine name. Do not argue with the intrusion. Replace it and continue. After 60 to 90 seconds, you will feel a slight relief, an inner loosening. That is the click of the lock. The key has turned. Finish with a gentle thank you and return to your activity, trusting that the power has taken charge. The first time you might need 2 minutes. With practice, an instant will suffice. The essential part is to completely substitute the negative impression with the awareness of God. Presence does not need loud cries, it manifests in quiet conviction. To illustrate the immediate effectiveness of the key, I recount the case of Clara M., a Chicago resident. Divorced, she was involved in a custody battle for her 8-year-old daughter. The father's lawyer presented hostile witnesses. She feared an unfavorable ruling. She had tried affirmations, fasting, and long nightly prayers, but anxiety persisted. A friend sent her a pamphlet of mine about the golden key. Clara read it in line at the post office and decided to apply it right then. She diverted her mind from judges and papers, repeated "God is love" for just over a minute, and let the tension leave her shoulders. Whenever the unrest returned, on the bus, preparing dinner, she turned the key with the same process. 2 days later, she received a call from the opposing lawyer. A friendly agreement had been reached through state mediation. Custody was granted in her favor, with generous visitation for the father and no further court cases. She wrote, "I felt as if the case had been resolved inside me before signing a paper. That is exactly right. The key does not convince people. It clears the mental blockage that projected conflict. Once the inner channel is free, wisdom finds the proper legal path effortlessly. You may think your problem is too complex for 90 seconds of silence. That very belief is the lock keeping the solution out. God does not require detailed information to act. When Moses asked what name he should give the people, the voice answered, "I am who I am." That I am is enough to dissolve chains and open seas. Your task is to remember the name until the screen is filled only with it. The human mind will say, "What if it doesn't work?" Turn the key again. Each turn deepens the channel, and the habit of worry loses ground. Also, avoid mixing the practice with tense expectation of results. Let go, trust, and continue your daily work. The key does not work out of curiosity, but through surrender. Do not dig at the seed. When the problem pushes the door again, do not deny or analyze it. Turn the key again, 2, 3, 10 times a day if necessary. It will not tire you because each turn feeds peace, not exhaustion. Remember, no difficulty holds without your attention. Turn your mental gaze away, and it will starve to death. Turn the golden key right now on the situation that worries you most. Let go of the weight, repeat the name, feel the light expand, and say thanks. The external result may take a day or an hour. The inner release is instant, and that release is already the seed of the new form. Clara demonstrated this with custody. Thousands of readers have verified it. You will too if you obey the psalmist's simple command, "Be still." Let God be God in your mind, and the material universe will adjust its pieces with the precision of a master clock. The key is in your hand, just turn it. Chapter 6. Treatments for Physical Health. I am Jehovah your healer. Exodus 15:26. The same intelligence that keeps the stars in orbit pulses in every cell of your body. What we call diseases are essentially messages from that intelligence saying, the mind has strayed, restore harmony and I will correct the form. If you accept this principle, you understand that genuine healing always begins on the mental and spiritual plane. It does not mean denying the doctor, science, or common sense. It means recognizing the hierarchical order. The primal cause is mental, the body is the field of manifestation, and God, pure life, is the permanent healing agent. When Moses heard in the desert, I am Jehovah your healer, he did not receive a future promise, but the revelation of an ongoing fact. Divine life is perpetually available to repair, renew, and perfect every organic structure. The student of Christian metaphysics must cooperate with that life through a threefold treatment: affirm the truth, deny the discordant appearance, and finally rest mentally to allow the law to act. To affirm the truth is to proclaim what God knows about the body: perfect circulation, perfect chemical balance, perfect nervous communication. The affirmation is not directed at matter, but at the deep mind that governs matter, reminding it of the original model. To deny the appearance does not mean stubbornly resisting pain or fever, it means withdrawing their authority. By declaring that the ailment has no substance in God, you loosen the psychic root that sustains it. Mental rest is the decisive step. You release the burden just as a gardener waters the seed and then steps away. Without that rest, anxiety continues to sow the same weeds you think you are uprooting. A simple formula brings together the three elements. The life of God flows in me. Perfect form, perfect function. The discordant appearance has no power, and I rest in the peace of the Spirit. Repeat it slowly, with consent, until a sensation of relief, warm or cool depending on the case, spreads within. That relief indicates that the mind has given free passage to the power. I like to illustrate the mechanics with concrete cases. 2 years ago, a carpenter from Guanajuato, Mr. Ernesto, wrote to me recounting an accident in his workshop. The index finger of his right hand was trapped under a press. Doctors spoke of an open fracture and possible partial amputation. Ernesto remembered one of my talks about treatments, and while being taken to the hospital, began murmuring, "The life of God flows, perfect form, perfect function." During the X-ray, he repeated the phrase over and over, not as a desperate chant, but like someone holding a compass in the midst of a storm. Whenever the pain brought up the bloody image, he quietly denied, "It has no power, life reigns right now." Then he returned to affirmation and a brief inner silence, breathing in the certainty that the finger was renewing from the root. 2 hours later, the surgeon announced something unusual. The bone was aligned, the tissues surprisingly clean, no arterial rupture. Splinting and stitching were enough. Ernesto continued the treatment at home. 3 times a day he affirmed the truth, denied the appearance, and mentally rested for a few minutes. At 48 hours, the cast was removed to check the inflammation. They found almost normal mobility and a pink tone that amazed the nurse. After a week, Ernesto was back to brushing planks. He sent the follow-up X-ray, and his testimony was archived among the explainable but unusual cases. The explanation, of course, is very simple. The mind stopped maintaining the injured form and allowed life to restore the cellular matrix. Some will object, saying this only works for minor injuries. My illness is chronic. The law knows no sizes. A small shadow and a mountain are identical to light. Both vanish when light arrives. What makes the difference is the consistency with which you maintain the treatment. If the symptom reasserts itself, do not panic. Recompose the triad. Affirm the truth with conviction. Deny without anger. Rest. Rest, I emphasize, is not indifference. It is the trust that allows wisdom to move without your intellectual interference. A father who plants a tree does not keep tugging the branch to make it grow. He trusts the sap. The outside world will try to remind you of diagnoses, percentages, and hereditary fears. Listen to the doctor, follow sensible instructions, but direct your faith exclusively to the principle of life. Biblical accounts confirm that when the mind accepts, "I am your healer," the same current that parted the Red Sea can open arteries, fuse bones, and restore organs. It is not a miracle. It is a higher law in action. Now practice your own treatment. First, name the part of the body that requires attention. My spine, my pancreas, my skin. Declare 3 times, pausing between each phrase. The life of God flows in my spine, perfect form, perfect function. Notice if a contrary thought arises, but the doctor said answer gently. The appearance has no power, only truth prevails. Exhale long and silently as if laying your worries at the feet of the Most High. Remain still for half a minute. That minute equals months of accelerated physiology, because there universal energy rewrites the invisible patterns that sustain matter. Repeat the process several times a day, especially at bedtime, when the mind enters the hypnagogic state and absorbs the command without resistance. If during the night pain wakes you, do not worry. Turn on your pillow, say the affirmation, and return to rest. You do not fight the pain. You introduce a frequency that dissolves it. Be prudent in your conversation. Do not describe symptoms in detail to every friend. You would be reaffirming the appearance. If you need to inform, do so neutrally and end with faith. I'm receiving spiritual treatment. Life is renewing me. This is not denying medical science, but giving spirit the decisive word. The habit of blessing the body in many ways produces great benefit. When you wash yourself, say, "This water is a vehicle of the divine presence, cleansing and strengthening my tissues." When you dress, each cell vibrates with exact order. It is recorded where it matters, in the creative mind that governs every fiber. The mystics of the Old Testament anointed with oil. You can anoint with words charged with life. Do not forget to add preventive gratitude. While Mr. Ernesto's index finger pulsed beneath the bandage, he murmured, "Thank you, because perfect form is appearing." That gratitude did not depend on visible condition. It preceded the result and acted as a magnet. When after 48 hours he moved the phalanx without pain, the gratitude burst into natural, unforced joy. Now close your eyes for a moment and let the phrase from Exodus resonate. I am Jehovah your healer. You do not say I will be or I was, but I am, present and perpetual. Allow the declaration to penetrate the mental fabric. Let it descend to every organ. Feel, if you can, a gentle pulse of energy, perhaps warm, perhaps cool, that spreads. That sensation is a sign of contact. Hold it for a few seconds and release. Your part is done. The inner healer continues the work with automatic wisdom. Just as the carpenter saw his finger restored in 2 days, you will see any area restored if you maintain the treatment without anxiety. Remember, intense affirmation, serene denial, confident rest. Nothing interrupts life when the mind imitates it and then steps aside. That life is yours. It is God Himself acting as undeniable health. Give it room, and it will obey its nature, to heal, restore, perfect. Chapter 7. Treatments for Prosperity. My God will supply every need of yours according to His riches in glory in Christ Jesus. Philippians 4:19. Money has never been a problem for the divine life. The universe flows with inconceivable abundance. Fields covered with wheat, seas brimming with fish, galaxies scattering streams of light. When you or I feel tightness, we are not facing a lack of substance. We are facing an inner screen that displays the phrase, "not enough." That image translates into empty bank accounts, stalled checkbooks, and piled-up bills. Transforming this mental movie is, therefore, the true treatment for prosperity. The apostle did not say, "My employer will supply," nor "My national economy will supply," but "My God will supply." The supply comes from a source that knows no drought. The first step is to identify the empty checkbook mindset. It is recognized by phrases like, "With the little I earn, I don't know if I'll make it to the end of the month. The cost of living is impossible." Those words are decrees. They seal the flow even before it leaves the spiritual bank. Changing the inner phrase is not about painting on superficial optimism. It is about removing the blockage and allowing the divine current to flow into the channel of our concrete experience. A practical way to re-educate the mind is the sealed envelope exercise. Take an envelope of any size you prefer. On a piece of paper, write the exact amount you wish to have available each month, already free of taxes and commitments, an amount that gives you room to live comfortably and to give joyfully. Be precise. Avoid ranges. The creative mind works better with defined forms. Place the paper inside the envelope and seal it. Having done this, bless the envelope with an affirmation such as, "God, the infinite source, perfectly supplies this amount by grace and in harmonious ways." Keep the envelope in a drawer or special box. Do not open it or check how it's doing. Every morning and night, place your fingers on the flap. Repeat the affirmation once and visualize the sum as already credited in your account with the serenity of someone signing a receipt. Then release it. The practice takes less than a minute and yet rewrites the subconscious record where supply patterns reside. This procedure is not theory. It has been proven in hundreds of cases. One very expressive case is Doña Matilda, a neighborhood seamstress in Puebla. She came to one of my conferences discouraged. 5 small loans had her walking a tightrope. After paying interest, little remained for the workshop. I noticed she kept repeating, "It's not enough, it's not enough." I explained that phrase was a check drawn on a scarcity bank. It is paid promptly with more scarcity. I reminded her of the promise in Philippians and asked her to replace the fatal expression with, "God is my provision now." I also entrusted her with the sealed envelope exercise, with the amount that would cover all her debts and leave a reasonable margin for capital. Matilda chose the figure with a trembling pencil, followed the envelope routine, and began the practice. Every time a client postponed payment, instead of sighing, "This never improves," she murmured, "Divine substance flows." When she made a dress, she blessed the pointed needle, giving thanks for new orders. A neighbor judged her and avoided her, but Matilda didn't defend herself. After 3 weeks, she received an unusual order, 25 regional costumes for a folk ballet. She didn't have enough fabric. She remembered the key to provision and declared, "My God, provide this too." That very noon, a textile representative was clearing stock and offered exactly the fabric she needed at half price. With the gain, she paid off the first loan. The process continued. In 11 months, all debts disappeared. The workshop rent was paid in advance and a new machine replaced the old singer. Reviewing her ledgers, Matilda discovered that the monthly sum flowing in from work, scrap sales and sewing classes matched the amount in the sealed envelope. "I no longer live counting coins," she wrote. "I live counting blessings." It was not luck, it was withdrawing the order of misery and placing the order for unlimited provision. You may ask, what if fixed income does not change? The initial form may be the same, but the law works through surprising channels. Unexpected raises, favorable tax adjustments, substantial discounts, timely gifts. Money does not always come. Sometimes what arrives is the cancellation of an expense. For the divine mind, it is just as easy to deliver 1,000 pesos as to erase 1,000 pesos from the account. Keep your eyes on abundance, not on the method. It is important to add a dose of gratitude beforehand. Every time you touch the envelope or say the affirmation, feel gratitude, even if the pocket still feels heavy. That feeling sends the received signal that the universe needs to send the substance. Meanwhile, avoid complaining to family. Others' compassion does not pay bills and reinforces the idea of lack. Speak of provision or keep silent. If someone asks how you are doing financially, answer calmly, "God is my provision and my quota is covered." You do not need to evangelize, simply refuse to feed the ghost of scarcity. Also give something of what you have now, no matter how small, not to buy divine favor, but to witness the law of circulation. Matilda set aside 10 pesos every week for thread and needles for a poor student. She discovered that the more went out one side, the more came in the other. Circulation generates circulation. When living among suspicious people or pessimistic press, you may hear, "The economy is in recession. There is not enough for everyone." Reply, "If you find it useful, there is infinite abundance and a channel ready for each one." This is not pink theory. It is spiritual physics. The collective mind may gather black clouds, but it only takes one individual to hold the ray of faith to open a clearing and let the light in. Be that individual in your home, your office, your country. If after a few weeks impatience appears, "I still don't see the amount," recognize the emotion and place it in the envelope together with the affirmation, "I release this impatience. I trust in divine accuracy." The human mind processes time, the divine mind processes fulfillment. Repeat, release, continue. Suddenly a door opens, just like hinges that yield after invisible oil is applied. Always remember that "my God will supply" is not a conditional promise. It is a law. The only condition lies in our acceptance. Change the inner word, bless the desired amount, act with gratitude, and take some step of generosity. The rest is done by the principle that multiplied loaves in Galilee and will multiply ideas, opportunities, and coins in your experience. With the sealed envelope, You will have written a check on the celestial bank. It will be honored at the window of daily life with mathematical precision. Then you will verify, like the seamstress from Puebla, that the habit of saying God is my provision now cancels debts, opens markets, and transforms the empty checkbook mind into a mind of overflowing storehouse. Chapter 8. Relationships from criticism to blessing. But I say to you, love your enemies, bless those who curse you, do good to those who hate you, and pray for those who spitefully use you and persecute you. Matthew 5:44. No area tests spiritual understanding as quickly as our relationships do. A toothache, a lack of money, even a chronic ailment can be ignored for certain hours of the day, but a sour look at the table or an aggressive email from a partner pulses relentlessly in the mind, producing an echo that frays the nerves and clouds reason. Most people try to solve the problem by asking the other to change. If only my boss were fairer. If my sister-in-law would stop interfering. This strategy keeps attention fixed on the apparent cause and leaves the inner root intact. Jesus, aware of the deeper law, gave advice as simple as it was revolutionary. Bless those who curse you. Change the vibration you emit, and the other will inevitably reflect it back. This truth is summed up in what I call the law of the human mirror. Every person who appears in your life is a mirror that returns the image you secretly hold of them. I do not mean the visible face, but the mental film you project when you think about that individual. If every time their name arises you evoke annoyance, the mirror will show annoyance. If you decide to see them wrapped in harmony, sooner or later they will return harmony. Not because you hypnotize them, but because the mind, insecure by nature, tends to adjust to the expectation it receives. Criticism perpetuates the criticized behavior. Blessing causes a realignment toward good. To apply this law without mental strain, I suggest the technique of the blessing album. It takes barely 3 minutes a day and produces results that, to the untrained eye, verge on miraculous. Here's how it works. Mentally select the person with whom there is conflict: partner, relative, authority figure, neighbor. Close your eyes and, as if flipping through a photo album, review 2 or 3 clear snapshots where the person appears happy, healthy, prosperous. Don't imagine a future reconciliation scene. That can trigger the ego. Just see them smiling calm, perhaps holding a personal achievement. As you pass through each image, say softly or internally, "I bless your good. The peace of God covers you." Or a short phrase that inspires you. Before opening your eyes, close the session with a "Thank you, Father," releasing any specific expectations. Do this once a day, preferably at night, for at least a week. Resist the temptation to argue mentally whether the other deserves the blessing. Your goal is not to absorb guilt, but to reprogram your projection. 3 minutes are enough. Insisting for longer tends to reactivate emotional controversy. The heart learns in brief, constant doses, like a delicate muscle. If you doubt its effectiveness, consider the case of Carlos and Eduardo, partners in a small import business in Querétaro. Their initially cordial relationship soured when Eduardo accused Carlos of handling double invoices. They took the case to civil court and halted operations. Carlos, who had attended a workshop on the law of the mirror, decided to try the blessing album. Every night he visualized Eduardo within his own success, signing contracts, celebrating with family. He pronounced, "Divine life prospers your path, Eduardo, and prospers mine." After exactly 12 days, he received an email from the opposing lawyer, proposing friendly mediation. 4 meetings sufficed to sign an agreement that, far from dissolving the partnership, transformed it. Eduardo took charge of accounting with transparency, and Carlos handled commercial affairs. The restructured company grew by 40% in the following 6 months. At the meal that sealed the reconciliation, Eduardo confessed, "I don't know why. But 2 weeks ago, I started thinking maybe it didn't make sense to ruin something we could fix." Carlos smiled without explaining. He knew that in that moment he had turned the right page in his inner album. Those who object that this sounds too easy forget that the mind is the primary factory. The external world is just the warehouse of finished products. Change the mold, and the piece comes out new. If you insist on correcting the piece without touching the mold, you will always revert to the old defect. Criticism, whether public or secret, stamps the same mold daily. Blessing reshapes it. Many confuse blessing with approval. To bless a competent person does not mean to approve their mistake. It means to recognize that behind the mask of fear or conflict lives a divine principle capable of expressing order. By focusing on that principle, you help reveal it. Criticism, on the other hand, energizes the mask and perpetuates discord. This happens even with justified criticism. The law does not weigh reasons. It only responds to vibrations. Try this tonight. Choose the most tense relationship in your orbit and dedicate 3 minutes to the album. At first, resistance may arise. How can I imagine them happy if they have hurt me? Acknowledge the emotion as a sign that the old pattern is descending. Breathe, pronounce the blessing, and continue. Each session erodes that internal constraint. By the 6th or 7th day, you will feel a curious calm when you think of the person. That is the first fruit, inner peace. The external fruit, change of behavior, solution, harmonious distancing, will come in its own time, just as naturally. Keep your practice secret. Do not announce, "I am blessing you." The laboratory is private. Share only with those who understand the law and reinforce your resolve. Avoid sarcastic comments like, "Let's see if this really works." The listener's doubt doesn't harm, but it can reactivate your own shadow. If the relationship involves severe physical or legal harm, maintain the blessing, but do not neglect practical steps for civil protection. Jesus said, "Love your enemies. Do not yield your rights." Blessing clears hatred. Prudence manages boundaries. One does not contradict the other. Not all ties will become fraternal. Some will dissolve quietly when the energy that held them, criticism, fear, dependence, melts away. That separation is also a blessing, as it frees both parties to grow in different directions. Trust that divine intelligence arranges the appropriate form. Your task is simply to look at the luminous center of the other soul. End your daily session by remembering the implicit promise, "What I give returns multiplied." To give blessing is to receive peace. To grant imagined prosperity is to open the door to your own real prosperity. When Carlos and Eduardo signed the new alliance and their numbers rose by 40%, they understood that the company reflected an ancient equation. Criticism equals contraction. Blessing equals expansion. Write that in your spiritual notebook. The sum never fails. Now close your eyes for a moment. Bring the face that disturbs you and pass to the first photo of the album. See them smiling, breathing well-being. Whisper, "I bless you." The peace of God covers you. 2 seconds. Switch to the second photo. See them surrounded by enthusiasm in their task. "I bless you. Divine life prospers your path." 2 seconds. Last image, you and them, each in their place, free souls. "Thank you, Father." Feel a slight loosening in your chest. Open yourself to the certainty that the energy has changed sign. Repeat tomorrow. In a week you will see signs, a more courteous greeting, a conciliatory message, or simply a loss of interest in the quarrel. Do not catalogue progress or setback. Bless and observe. This is how the Master's command applies in daily life. To bless those who yesterday seemed adversaries is not a moral challenge, but an exact spiritual technology. When you practice it consistently, you will discover that no mirror remains hostile to a face that smiles with the light of God. Chapter 9, Scientific Forgiveness. I do not say to you up to 7 times, but up to 70 times 7. Matthew 18:22. Forgiving is not a favor we grant to the guilty. It is a scientific operation that frees our own mind from toxic images. The person we hate does not suffer when we remember them with resentment. Our stomach secretes acid, our pulse quickens, our nervous system tightens. They might be on vacation, not thinking about us at all. That is why Jesus recommended an exorbitant number, 70 times 7. He was not talking about counting offenses, but about repeating the inner act as many times as the negative memory tries to resurface. Each repetition erases a deeper layer of the mental photograph. When the image disappears, the wound closes, and goodness flows freely again. Here is the mechanics. Resentment imprints in the subconscious the face of the offender linked to pain, injustice, or loss. That dense vibration blocks the flow of health, joy, and prosperity, just as a piece of iron hinders a compass. Forgiving means releasing the image, or, better said, dissolving it in the light until it loses its outline. It is not about absorbing bad behavior or inviting the aggressor to dinner. It is about declaring that above the transient personality exists the divine presence that links us all and whose nature is harmony. When we firmly affirm, "God in you and me is perfect harmony," we restore the connection to that layer of unity where no debt or grievance can exist. Some reply, "I have forgiven, but I still feel anger." This means the conscious mind has decided to move on, but the emotional file remains active. The technique consists of applying forgiveness as many times as the memory appears, 70 times 7, until the screen goes blank. The procedure is brief. As soon as the painful scene arises, stop, take the offender in your mind and say calmly, "God in you and me is perfect harmony." Visualize a golden light surrounding both of you for a few seconds. Release the mental picture with a soft thank you, and return to your task. Each pass lightens the load. Don't argue with the memory, replace it. The subconscious only understands images and feelings, never arguments. The effectiveness was clear in the experience of Miriam, a nurse on duty in a hospital in Querétaro. After her divorce, she carried resentment toward her ex-husband, who had abandoned the support of their 2 children. She dreamed of buying a small house, but the mortgage required a down payment impossible on her salary. Every time she saw real estate ads, bitterness arose. If only he paid what he owes. One Sunday she attended one of my talks and wrote down a phrase in her notebook, "God in you and me is that perfect harmony." She decided to practice. The first night, she repeated the affirmation 15 times before falling asleep, imagining her ex relaxed and smiling, happy with his own affairs. Upon waking, the old sting returned. She repeated the phrase, saw the golden light, and let go. The same at noon, at shift's end, and at bedtime. She kept this up for 10 days. On the 11th day, she received a call from a cousin she barely spoke to. He needed a private nurse for a patient at home for 3 months and would pay up front. The sum matched, peso for peso, the down payment required by the bank. Miriam signed the contract, opened a housing account, and months later her application was approved. When she wrote to me, she added a postscript. I didn't have to argue about alimony. The money came through another door. My ex invited me to coffee to talk about the kids, and I discovered that my anger had disappeared. That is scientific forgiveness. You correct the previous movie, and outer life responds with mathematical precision. You might worry if the offense is recent or severe. Let's clarify. Forgiving does not mean continuing to expose yourself to abuse. If someone hits you, you seek legal protection. Meanwhile, you cleanse your mind so the same vibration does not replay the experience in another scenario. A new lock on the door prevents physical intrusion. Forgiveness prevents psychological intrusion. The main enemy is complacent repetition, telling the story to every friend, chewing it like tasteless gum. Every retelling strengthens the image. Practice the opposite. Tell the story only once if advice is needed, then stay silent and apply the formula. At first you will think you are lying. How can I say perfect harmony if my resentment persists? You are not describing the present, you are describing the higher truth destined to manifest in time. Add a symbolic act. Write the person's name on a piece of paper, draw a circle around it, and write the affirmation around the edge. Keep the sheet inside a Bible or your favorite spiritual book as a physical reminder that the matter is in God's hands. Every time your mind wants to pull the thread of resentment, touch the book and repeat the phrase once. That mix of physical gesture and mental word imprints the command more strongly. Observe subtle changes. Perhaps you dream of the person without feeling pain. Perhaps you meet on the street and the usual spark doesn't ignite. That is a sign the energy is reconfiguring. Don't try to measure how much remains. The subconscious doesn't operate with centimeters but with saturation level. When the cup overflows with harmony, the last drop of poison spills unnoticed. Don't forget to extend forgiveness to yourself. Many carry guilt for allowing the offense or for hurting others. The same method applies. God in me is perfect harmony. See your face lit up. Hear the innocent free sentence. Without that self-forgiveness, forgiveness of others limps, because the mind keeps believing in guilt, whether foreign or your own. Close these paragraphs by applying it immediately. Think of the figure who causes you displeasure, slight or intense. Say inwardly, God in you and me is perfect harmony. See a halo of light cover their head, descend to your chest and merge into one radiant glow. Breathe, release, give thanks. Most likely the image will return within an hour. Repeat the operation, 70 times 7. Don't count, persist. When after days or weeks the figure appears neutral, without stirred emotion, you will know the negative film was destroyed. Where there was resentment, there will be peace. Where there was blockage, goodwill flow. perhaps in the form of money. Greetings. Simple joy. That is how the nurse who paid for her house lived it. That is how I have seen it in hundreds of letters. That is how you will see it if you practice. Scientific forgiveness does not depend on the goodness of the other, but on obedience to a law. Where harmony is affirmed and criticism released, life self-regulates and repairs. Trust, free yourself, release the image, and the universe will show in deeds that divine love keeps intact the order of all souls above the errors that seem to separate them. Chapter 10. Pray without ceasing, pray without ceasing. 1 Thessalonians 5:17. When Paul wrote his letter to the Thessalonians, he was not suggesting that we spend the whole day on our knees, nor reciting endless litanies until out of breath. He was speaking of turning the very act of breathing into communion, returning each moment a small mental nod that effortlessly recalls the presence of God. To pray without ceasing means to hold the mind not in pleading, but in constant acknowledgement. God is here. God is working now. God is the reality of everything I see. Under this continuous atmosphere, daily life ceases to be a succession of emotional ups and downs and becomes a serene channel through which order, health, and provision flow. Many reserve prayer for a special time, then upon entering traffic or the office, they mentally disconnect and allow hurry, judgment, or complaint to take the helm. The result is like a fire that's been cut off from fuel. The spiritual flame wavers and eventually dies out. Keeping it burning requires small doses of fuel throughout the day. That is why I teach transforming dead moments, a red traffic light, waiting at the bank, the walk from home to the bus, into micro-treatments. They can last just 10 seconds, yet rekindle inner certainty like a breath fan's glowing embers. Imagine going out to work, waiting for the traffic light to change. Instead of stewing in impatience, do a mini exercise of 2 breaths. Inhale and silently affirm, God is perfect order. Exhale and add, that order governs my day. The light changes. You move forward feeling you have aligned your whole journey with the divine law. 5 hours later, you find yourself in line at the bank. Instead of counting the people ahead, gently close your eyes and declare, infinite substance flows right now. Everyone receives what they need, and so do I. When you open your eyes, the line may not have shortened, but time will feel lighter. Even better, your subconscious has received a reminder of abundance in the very place you used to sow irritation. During the afternoon walk, repeat a step treatment. As you put down your right foot, think love. As you put down your left, think wisdom. 5 minutes are enough to synchronize body and mind with the divine double flow, affection that embraces, intelligence that guides. Those who practice this conscious walking find ideas flow more smoothly and conversations become less harsh. It's not magic, but keeping the phone line open to the source instead of hanging up after morning prayer. You may think such discipline will interrupt your productivity. The opposite happens. By sustaining the small spark of continuous prayer, nervous tension decreases, the mind clears, and the body works more efficiently. To prove this, consider Victor, a logistics executive in Guadalajara. His blood pressure had shot up to 160/100ths. The doctor prescribed diet, exercise, and rest, but Victor was glued to corporate email. He attended one of my seminars where I suggested the gratitude alarm. Set your phone clock to emit a soft tone every hour on the hour. Upon hearing it, the person puts down the mouse or pen, closes their eyes for 5 seconds, and gives thanks for something concrete happening right there. The light through the window, the balance of the chair, the heartbeat, ending with the phrase, "Thank you, Father, because all is well now." Victor set the alarm from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. At first, he found the interruption annoying. He feared losing focus, but noticed that after each micro-break, he returned to work with clearer ideas. The alarm didn't say check your phone, it said recognize the source. 3 weeks later, at a medical checkup, his pressure had dropped to 128/80. The cardiologist talked about diet. Victor smiled, knowing the decisive change had happened in his mental atmosphere. 12 daily inhalations of gratitude, 144 reminder tones in 12 workdays, were enough to convince his nervous system he lived in a friendly environment, not a permanent war. That is the science of praying without ceasing. Such practice requires no mystical isolation. You can attend a client, and while they listen to your explanation, hold in the background the phrase, Harmony governs this conversation. You can wash dishes while repeating, "God's cleansing shines through me." Every act becomes a sacrament when the mind fills it with divine acknowledgement. After a few weeks, you'll notice that prayer no longer needs the crutch of words. An underlying sense of peace precedes every action, like background music that never stops, not even in hallways or elevators. There will be days with stumbles, heavy traffic, alarming news, abrupt calls. Don't reproach yourself. Use the stumble to reactivate the connection. If someone yells at you, breathe deeply and remember, God is stable peace. I express it now, do it mentally without theatrics. The other person's response may not change immediately, but you will not lose your center, and that firmness often calms the external storm too. Avoid the obsession with mechanical words. Continuous prayer is above all an attitude. Sometimes a conscious exhale saying, "I am for gathering," is enough, like pressing the Wi-Fi icon to restore the signal. Don't try to sink into mystical withdrawal while crossing the street. A brief glance at the sky and a life-affirming phrase suffice. The Spirit does not demand impossible postures, but availability. However, it's good to begin the day with a few formal minutes of Ketu, quiet time. It's like turning on the stove before putting on the pot. Then quick treatments keep the boil without the flame going out. If at midday your mind feels noisy, take 90 seconds in the bathroom, on the stairs, by the copier. Close your eyes and repeat, "Peace, peace, peace," in rhythm with your heart. When you open them, the world will seem the same, but your mind will be different, and the law will reflect that frequency sooner rather than later. Don't fear making your day too spiritual. No boss fires an employee who works with greater clarity. No client leaves a seller who radiates calm. The inner kingdom translates into outer effectiveness. Victor not only lowered his pressure, his reports began arriving error-free, and his team noticed the change. He became a calm center amid the urgent shipping department. The company never knew about gratitude alarms. They only knew Victor was reliable and productive and promoted him a quarter later. Set up your own system today. If hourly chimes annoy you, link prayer to fixed habits. Every time you open a door, touch water, or send an email, the gesture triggers the word. The word recalls the source. The source fills the vessel. Thus, without fanfare, you fulfill Paul's command. You are not repeating with your lips. You are breathing the truth. Praying without ceasing does not separate you from the world. It lights it from within. And soon you will discover that the things of God and the things of the day are really one thing. The current of good expressed through every task when the mind learns to recognize it at every step, every traffic light, every line, every breath. Chapter 11, Christ in you, the true nature, to whom God wanted to make known the riches of the glory of this mystery, which is Christ in you, the hope of glory. Colossians 1:27. When Paul speaks of Christ in you, he is not describing a dogma that demands complicated creeds. He points to the most practical fact the human mind can discover. Within every being exists a higher God, operative and present, who thinks with perfect clarity, feels with pure love, and acts with serene power. That inner self, Christ, the Logos, the true being, is not a distant figure to whom favors are begged. It is the divine spark that animates the pulse of your blood and the intelligence that holds your atoms in orbit. All of Jesus' work consisted in revealing that center and showing that anyone can express it by identifying with it. A lamp can be connected to the power plant and yet remain dark if the switch is not turned on. Similarly, the inner Christ always exists, but its qualities do not shine while the mind confuses itself with the fragile self, the self of doubt, the wounded memory, constant comparison. The hope of glory means precisely this. The promise of a full life becomes a concrete experience to the extent that we remember who dwells within and merge with that consciousness. How to achieve that identification? Reading theology or repeating slogans is not enough. A change of self-image must be provoked. The most direct method I know is the mirror exercise. Enter a quiet place. Stand before a full-length mirror. Soft light helps but is not essential. Look into your own eyes and remain for 60 seconds softly, rhythmically declaring, "I and the Father are one. Christ in me is my true self." At first, the common mind will object, "I have flaws, I'm afraid. How can I be one with God?" Watch the objection pass like a cloud and insist without harshness. You are not trying to convince reason. You are planting a new image in the subconscious. The first 20 seconds may seem empty. Around the 1-minute mark, you will notice a slight rearrangement. Your breathing deepens, your shoulders relax, your gaze softens. This signal indicates the higher self has emerged and begins to radiate. Finish with a thank you, and go about your day without exploring how you feel. The seed is already working. Repeat tomorrow. Consistency imprints the impression. A tangible example proves the power of this self-recognition. Andres, an engineering student in Monterrey, suffered from stage fright. Every time he had to present a project, his voice cracked and his mind went blank. He had tried breathing techniques and mild medications without success. A friend lent him the Sermon on the Mount, where it explained that the inner Christ is the true voice and the true intelligence. Andres adopted the mirror exercise, but with a twist. Before speaking publicly, he closed his eyes for 30 seconds and said to himself, "Christ in me speaks now. I and the Father are one." Then he went up to the podium imagining the voice came from the center of his chest, not from a tense throat. The first test was a seminar of 20 students. At the start, he felt the usual trembling, repeated the phrase mentally, breathed and began. To his surprise, the voice came out steady. His mind remembered the words at intervals. His classmates applauded and the professor said, "I've never heard you so clearly." He kept practicing. 2 months later, he presented the final project before a room of 150 people without a single block. "I understood," he wrote me, "that I didn't have to be brave. I just needed to let the inner Christ express itself. Once the wall of the small self fell, the source of wisdom flowed unobstructed and fear disappeared." You might think the inner Christ is a concept too lofty for daily routine. In reality, the more ordinary the setting, the easier it is to verify its action. While cooking, say, "The intelligence of Christ guides my hands." When answering emails, "The peace of Christ inspires my words." When dealing with a restless child, "The love of Christ in me responds to their need." These brief phrases open the gate. The higher self takes care of the details. It is important to remember that Christ is not a strict teacher nor an ethereal energy. He is the best part of you, the part that already knows, already loves, already can. Your job is to give him the command post. Of course, cloudy days will come, mistakes, rush, physical pain. Don't conclude that Christ abandoned you. Rather, you identified again with the small self. Stop. Return to the mirror for 5 seconds. Using a Windows reflection also works. Repeat the phrase, "Breathe." Nothing is lost. Habit strengthens the circuit just as daily practice of an instrument sharpens the ear. And past mistakes? The inner Christ doesn't register them. He operates in the present continuous. When the mind evokes guilt, respond, "That belongs to the old self." Christ in me is innocent and wise. It is not about excusing faults, but about not solidifying them as identity. Divine life corrects gently when invited to take its place. I recommend keeping a small experience journal. Note the date, time, and situation where you invoked the inner Christ, and then the result. In a few weeks, you will decipher a pattern. Moments filled with that consciousness show flow, synchronicity, mutual understanding. This is the glory Paul speaks of, not an isolated mystical flash, but practical evidence that the higher self is in charge. Before closing, it is worth dispelling a frequent misunderstanding. Some fear that identifying with Christ is spiritual arrogance. Who am I to say God lives in me? True arrogance is the opposite, insisting on a limited, separate, lacking self and denying the divine spark the Creator placed in the human heart. The Master from Galilee, the epitome of humility, declared without hesitation, "The Father who dwells in me does the works." He was not exalting himself, but recognizing the source. That is active humility that accelerates miracles. Try the exercise tonight in front of the mirror. Look into your eyes, not your hairstyle, not the wrinkle, and slowly say, "I and the Father are one. Christ in me is my true self." Let the phrase take form in every cell. You may feel chills or nothing special. Don't seek sensations, just register the idea. Repeat tomorrow, the day after. The day will come when you look at your reflection and no longer see the old character. You will see a familiar light, soft, steady, smiling even before you smile. That will be Christ recognizing himself through your eyes. And you will know, as Andres did before the auditorium, that the hope of glory has become a present experience, not a religious theory, but the operative reality that transforms fear into trust, doubt into inspiration, selfishness into shared power. That reality was always with you. Now you see it face to face. Chapter 12, How to Handle the Temptation of Fear. Do not fear, for I am with you. Do not be dismayed, for I am your God. I will strengthen you. Isaiah 41:10. Fear is not a monster living outside of us. It is a mental image, and therefore a suggestion that can be accepted or rejected. It arrives like a persistent salesman offering his merchandise of catastrophes. If we listen, we sign a contract and it settles in. If we dismiss it, it leaves with no consequences. God, life itself, never sends fear. Perfect love casts out fear, John teaches. Recognizing this is key. Every fearful thought is an intruder without credentials, no matter how logical it may seem. Our task is to see the visitor, deny its authority, and replace it with truth, all in less than half a minute before the intruder hangs its picture on the subconscious wall. I summarize the process in 3 verbs starting with R: recognize, reject, replace. With practice, the 3 steps take about 30 seconds. First, recognize a shiver in your stomach, the internal phrase, and the jump in pulse. These symptoms announce that fear is knocking at the door. Do not deny it or cover it with a forced smile. Tell yourself, this is fear, it is not divine guidance. Second, reject. For 5 to 10 seconds, clearly affirm, I do not accept this thought. It does not come from God. It has no power. Your inner voice is a judge dismissing the case before it goes to trial. Rejection removes the ground from beneath the intruder. Third, replace. Immediately fill the space with the opposite idea. The mind, like a cup, cannot be empty. If fear goes out and nothing enters, it returns with reinforcements. That is why you declare the corresponding truth. God is with me. His wisdom guides every step. Hold the phrase for 10 to 15 seconds, filling it with calm emotion. Breathe. Feel the wave retreat and return to your task. Repeat as many times as necessary, 70 times if needed. Each repetition carves a groove of faith and erases one of fear. To speed up the replacement step, it is helpful to memorize a prepared antidote. Here are some common ones. Temptation of fear, affirmative antidote. Lack of money. God is my infinite provision now and always. Illness, the divine life in me is perfect health. Rejection or loneliness, God's love surrounds me, approves me, and draws companionship. Work failure. Divine success guides my plans and prospers my actions. Death or accident. I live, move, and exist in God's eternal life. Learn by heart the antidote that best covers your weak spot. Keep it ready like a fire extinguisher. Nothing proves the protocol's effectiveness better than the experience of Victor Manuel R., a novice pilot for a regional airline. On his 4th qualifying flight at 1,300 meters, a low hydraulic pressure warning triggered the alarm. Victor felt the old fear, a crisis that had made him doubt during simulations, creeping up his neck. In a flash, he recognized, this is fear. He mentally rejected it. I do not accept this panic. It does not come from God. While confirming procedures with the captain, he repeated his personal antidote over and over. The wisdom of Christ pilots this plane. I am safe in his care. Each repetition matched a slow exhale. His pulse stabilized. His voice regained firmness and his mind was clear enough to follow the checklist. Minutes later, the pressure normalized. It was a minor sensor failure, and the flight landed smoothly. The instructor signing the report commented, "You kept a cool head, kid." Victor smiled. He knew he had simply executed recognize, reject, replace at 10,000 feet. Perhaps your cockpit is a boardroom or a doctor's office awaiting test results. The same mechanism works. Identify the wave, deny its authority, switch the script. With use, the ritual becomes reflex, and the temptation of fear loses its edge because your response is automatic and precise. One detail is worth adding. After each victorious episode, give thanks. Gratitude fixes the experience in memory and strengthens certainty for the next test. Close your eyes for 2 seconds. Say, "Thank you, Father, for your presence," and carry on. This signature of gratitude seals the new image on your inner screen. Practice right now. Bring a recent fear, a test, a bill, a suspicious pain. Whisper, "I recognize this is fear." Then, "I reject it. It does not come from God." Finally, declare your chosen antidote. Do it slowly, breathing. If the thought strikes again, repeat it. Within a week, you will notice fear arrives with less force. In a month, most alarms will silence before sounding. Thus, Isaiah's promise is fulfilled. Do not fear, for I am with you. The promise updates itself with every battle won in the mind. The one who applies the protocol does not seek a life without challenges, but learns to walk the tightrope with the net of divine presence always extended. And that certainty, once established, becomes an invincible habit. Fear knocks. You recognize, reject, replace, and continue your march, leaving behind the luminous trail of one who knows beyond any doubt that God and they fly together in the same cockpit. Chapter 13. Service the multiplication of good. You are the light of the world. A city set on a hill cannot be hidden. Matthew 5:14. No one lights a lamp to hide it in a closet. Its purpose is to illuminate the surroundings. The same principle governs spiritual life. Every truth you discover, every good you receive, acquires its full meaning only when you radiate it outward. Jesus called that radiation the light of the world. It was not limited to a few select souls, but extended to every human being who recognizes the divine spark within. He also revealed a simple law. What you share returns multiplied. The reason is clear. You give from a consciousness of abundance, and that consciousness attracts a new flow. Who holds back, flickers in scarcity, and scarcity is what they receive. God confiscates nothing. The mind itself determines the flow by its attitude, whether to give or to contract. Giving in a metaphysical sense is not limited to money or visible favors. It involves deliberately projecting thoughts of good toward people and situations, even personal bonds. When you bless a stranger, you expand your circulation circuit. Goodwill, traveling as a silent wave, touches distant points and returns transformed into opportunity, health, unexpected support. You never know in what form the return will come, but the law assures it will come pressed, shaken, and overflowing. To prove it, I propose a 21-day challenge. For 3 weeks, offer each day a blessing to a stranger. Choose someone you cross on the street, the driver who lets you pass, the person at the checkout, a name that stands out in a newspaper. Don't ask permission or make ceremonies. Just think. The light of God surrounds you. Your path fills with peace and prosperity. Hold the image for 3 or 4 seconds. Feel a spark of joy. Then continue on your way. If one day you forget, resume the next. Consistency, not perfection, activates multiplication. Some ask, shouldn't I solve my own problems first before giving? That reasoning is precisely the obstacle. Giving opens the floodgate through which the answer to your matters will enter. Think of it this way. If you hold the seed until the ground promises a guaranteed harvest, you will never sow. By casting the seed, you trust the law of germination. Likewise, by blessing, you start the current that will bring you prosperity. Let's see a striking case. Rodrigo, a volunteer at a community kitchen in Veracruz, longed for a postgraduate scholarship in marine biology. He had been sending applications for 3 years without success. He heard about the 21-day challenge and decided to try it. Every morning on the way to university, he chose a person at random, the baker getting on the bus, a mother pushing a stroller, and mentally declared, "Divine life guides you, all good comes to you today." It was not a dramatic act, and lasted less than a traffic light change. At night, he wrote in a notebook, "Blessing to the woman at stall 203, blessing to the policeman on the corner." On day 18, he received an email. The foundation managing one of his applications had reactivated the program and offered him a full scholarship, travel, and living expenses. Rodrigo was waiting, he wrote, because he had given up hope. Yet the Lord does not forget. His blessings sown on strangers returned multiplied as the long-sought opportunity. Rodrigo completed his master's degree and today leads reef restoration projects. Such a story is no exception, but an illustration of the law in motion. When you direct attention to blessing, your subconscious convinces itself that you live in a friendly universe. That conviction is reflected in your contacts, body posture, facial expression, and the world responds accordingly. It is not collective hypnosis, it is vibrational affinity. Like a tuning fork that causes another tuning fork to vibrate at a distance, your harmonious thought resonates with harmonious circumstances. Fear may arise. If I bless a wrongdoer, do I reinforce their behavior? Remember, a blessing does not affirm error. It affirms the good latent beneath any mask. By proclaiming that divine light guides that person, you clear the mental fog that feeds their negative action. There is no risk in invoking the light. The risk lies in holding on to judgment and hatred, because you participate in that vibration yourself. Therefore, start now. Look around you, the delivery person, the elderly woman crossing the street, the teenager with headphones. Dedicate 3 seconds. The harmony of God surrounds you. Feel a flash of joy as if sprinkling fresh water on a stranger's garden. Repeat tomorrow. On the 7th day, you will notice a subtle inner lightness. On the 10th day, a favorable coincidence with an unexpected discount, an invitation to a gathering, perhaps the decisive turn you were awaiting. Do not measure from anxiety. The plant does not germinate faster by digging the soil. The gesture is sealed. Leave the type of return to life. A practical note: keep a simple record. In the margin of your planner, draw 21 boxes and mark each one as you complete the daily blessing. This small ritual generates a sense of progress and nurtures motivation. With this, we reach the end of our journey. Thought, feeling, word, golden keys, health, prosperity, forgiveness, continuous prayer, the inner Christ, and now service. All converge in this conclusion: you were made to radiate. Jesus did not say you might be the light. He affirmed you are the light. For that statement to be fully fulfilled, the light must circulate. A disconnected bulb does not shine. A bulb connected to the source, interconnected to the world, lights bars. Try 21 days. I bet you will reach 30 because the current of good, once unleashed, is delicious. And when the multiplied return knocks on your door, you will understand by experience what mystics have repeated for centuries. No one can give without receiving. No one can bless without being blessed. No one can become a channel of light without first bathing in it. You are the city on the hill. Shine without fear and let the mountain itself proclaim with fruits, scholarships, or miracles. The good news of conscious service, shared good, never runs out. It multiplies. Epilogue: 10 ideas for 30 days. I have come that they may have life and have it abundantly. John 10:10. The abundance of life Jesus promises is not a luxury for a few. It is the normal measure of a soul remembering its origin. Throughout these pages you have practiced various keys: mental image, feeling, word, forgiveness, continuous prayer, service, opening the floodgates of good. To engrave them deeply, I propose a 30-day exercise. We will choose 10 affirmations, 1 for each finger on your hand, easy to count, and write them morning and night in a journal. No more than 5 minutes, 3 to write, 2 to feel. The 10 key affirmations. God is my unlimited source and provision. Divine life flows in me as perfect health. God's harmony guides this situation now. The Father and I are one. Wisdom dwells in me. Christ in me is the hope of glory and serene power. Divine light illuminates my path and decisions. Infinite substance flows freely in my world. God's peace guards my mind and heart. God in you and me is perfect harmony. I bless and release, and God opens the way. All good manifests now under grace. How to use the 30-day journal. Morning. Open the journal, write the date, and copy the 10 affirmations, leaving a line between each. As you write, inhale the idea, feel it as reality, and move on. During the day, select one affirmation as your daily key. Underline it and review it mentally at traffic lights, in lines, or while walking. Evening, before sleep, reread what you wrote and note to the right any sign of fulfillment. A gesture of health, unexpected payment, moment of peace, act of service. No matter how small, record the sign. Final silence. Close the journal, breathe deeply, and give thanks. Thank you, Father, because abundant life becomes visible. At the end of 4 weeks, you will glance through the pages and see a pattern of coincidences, improvements, and insights confirming the promise. What is affirmed with faith and sustained with gratitude becomes a visible harvest. Keep that journal. It will be your personal evidence that John 10:10 is not poetry, but law in action. And when someone asks if Christian metaphysics works, don't argue. Show your own living 30-day record of life.